Coach Hagerty, you encouraged the coaches here out in Nebraska to read the book Brain Rules by John Medina. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, actually, Pat, I've had an opportunity. I've read the book, and then I also just recently purchased the audio book, so I have a chance, like when I travel, I can plug it in and listen to it, and it kind of reaffirms some of the things that I remember reading. But to me, it has tremendous application for coaches, and administrators, teachers, people that deal with students and the learning process and how the brain actually works. And there's a lot of research that's out there. And anybody that's taught, and you listen to these seminars and things when you start the school year and so on. But a lot of times it's difficult to make those ideas applicable to the classroom or in your practices. And I think John Medina, the author of this book, does an incredible job of taking that information and making it viable and usable information for practices. And so there's a lot of little techniques about the idea of asserting things into the short-term memory with repetition and how we do our drills, and making things even more applicable for long-term memory, like some of the philosophies that we have in our room, trying to get athletes to become their own best coach. That's something that we want to attribute to the long-term process and long-term memory, and how to incorporate that and allowing kids to maybe sometimes fail, and then suffering consequences, and so they emphasize doing the right things. But there's so many things from that book that I've taken over the course of the last year and tried to incorporate them into our practices, our training, and in my classroom teaching. I teach a personal finance course at Blue Springs High School, and how to approach, and one of the things that Medina talks about, just as an example, is how difficult it is to teach to the masses. That we know for sure one of the things that emphasizes the learning process is working with small groups, and the ability to reach kids in small groups, like in the practice room, working with maybe 2 or 3 man groups, and just staying with that group and talking to them, or bringing small groups in to train in the morning where you actually get to lay your hands on them, and so there's a connection between teacher, message, and athlete. And I think that that's something, again, just one simple message that's really emphasized in the book that stands out. And even in today's presentation, I talked a lot to the coaches about identifying small group instruction a lot more than trying to teach masses of 30 or 40 or 50 kids in the practice room all the same things. The ability to individualize and understand that kids operate at different sequences in their learning processes, the pedagogy from start to finish, from a kid that's maybe 14 in your room, maybe emotionally, mentally way above that mark, where other kids come in, their social and physical development and mental developments may be that of a 10 or 12-year-old. So you've got to try to balance that, and the only way to do that is to reach out to these kids on an individual basis and work individual instruction time into your practices. And so those are the kind of things that I've really taken from that book, and a lot of other messages as well.
That's great. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Pat.